There is a strange thing about cowardice in frontier towns. It never shows up alone. It always brings 2 or 3 friends, pins a badge on the meanest one, and calls itself the Law. Autumn of 1884. Cobre Flats, New Mexico Territory. A young widow named Della Henley was trying to hold together the freight and mercantile counter her late husband had built from nothing, being bled dry over a debt she never owed, surrounded by men who had already decided she was finished. What those men did not know was that the quiet drifter who had ridden into town 3 days before them, the one who walked with a slight limp and spoke to nobody, was the same man who had left their boss bleeding in a ditch outside Santa Fe 2 years earlier. And their boss had never forgotten the name. They should have asked around before they started laughing. Now, before we ride back to Cobre Flats, if stories about justice, courage, and the kind of people the frontier built mean something to you, hit that subscribe button and ride along with us. And tell me, partner, where are you listening from tonight? Drop your town in the comments. Now, let's go back to New Mexico Territory, autumn of 1884, and the morning everything in Cobre Flats began to crack. The Henley Freight and Mercantile stood on the west side of Main Street between a blacksmith shop and a feed store, which meant it was the kind of business that survived on working people, not gamblers or drifters. Caleb Henley had opened it in 1880 with a borrowed wagon and a mule he named Senator, because he said both of them were useful, but neither one could be trusted around money. Caleb died of a blood infection in the spring of 1883, and Della had kept the doors open every single day since then. That alone said more about her than most novels could. She was 26 years old. Brown hair she kept braided and pinned beneath a wide-brimmed canvas hat. Steady gray eyes that neither asked for help nor rejected it. She had learned bookkeeping from her father back in Missouri, and she applied those skills to every cent the freight route brought in. Because in New Mexico Territory in 1884, a widow running a business on her own had to be smarter than everybody else in the room just to stay even. Most days she managed it. The trouble arrived wearing a suit. His name was Preston Cavell, and he ran the Cavell Consolidated Freight Company out of Las Cruces. He was 43 years old, well-fed, with the careful hands of a man who had never once done physical work and liked keeping it that way. He wore a silver watch chain and a polished brown derby hat, and spoke to women in the tone of a man who considers patience a form of charity. Cavell had been expanding his freight routes northward for 2 years, buying out every small operator he could, and where buying failed, other methods tended to follow. He had arrived in Cobre Flats in late September with a piece of paper he claimed was a debt instrument, signed by Caleb Henley, a promissory note for $160 allegedly borrowed in 1882. The problem was that Caleb Henley had never borrowed money from Preston Cavell in his life. Della knew this the way she knew her own name. The other problem was that the deputy who served in Cobre Flats, a man called Harlan Briggs, owed Cavell money of his own, and had owed it long enough to stop thinking of the debt as a burden and start thinking of Cavell as a partner. Cavell had also brought 2 men with him from Las Cruces, and these men were not freight clerks. The first was Deke Tully, who stood 6 feet and 2 inches and had a jaw like the front end of a freight wagon. Deke had a reputation along the Rio Grande for being the kind of enforcer who did his best work when nobody was watching. He carried 2 revolvers and smiled at women the way a coyote smiles at a rabbit, slow and patient and already certain of the outcome. His vice was certainty. He had been certain his whole life, and that particular kind of certainty had made him dangerous and careless in equal measure. The second was a younger man named Caleb Orrin, no relation to Caleb Henley, who was 24 years old and had the eager, hollow look of a man still trying to convince himself that the people he worked for were the right kind of people. His vice was loyalty, not to any principle but to whoever happened to be paying him, which is the most dangerous kind of loyalty there is, because it will never turn on its object and can never be reasoned with. The third member of this arrangement was Deputy Harlan Briggs himself. Briggs was 51 years old, with a gray mustache and a lawman's badge worn slightly crooked from the last time someone grabbed at his collar. His vice was resentment. He had wanted to be a sheriff his whole life and had topped out at deputy, and that particular wound had never closed properly. Men like Briggs do not usually start out corrupt. They usually arrive at it the way water arrives at the lowest point in the ground, through years of running downhill from one small compromise to the next. On the morning of October the 4th, all three of them walked into Henley Freight together. Della was behind the counter tallying a manifest when the bell above the door rang. She knew what it was before she looked up, because she had been waiting for it. Cavell had sent word the previous afternoon that he would be coming by to discuss the debt arrangement. She had spent the night deciding she would not be moved. Cavell set the promissory note on the counter as gently as if he were placing a religious document on an altar. "Mrs. Henley," he said, "I've been more than patient. You've been more than something," Della said. She did not look at the paper. She had already had a lawyer in Albuquerque look at a copy, and the lawyer had told her the signature bore a suspicious resemblance to Caleb Henley's name on a bill of sale that had appeared in a dispute 2 years earlier. Forgery required proof to stick. Proof required time. Time was the one thing Cavell was trying to take from her. "The note falls due at month's end," Cavell said. He spread his hands wide like a man being reasonable. $160. I'm prepared to accept the business in lieu of full payment. That's more than fair." "That's robbery," Della said. Deke Tully laughed, somewhere behind Cavell. It was a short, flat sound, like a boot hitting a mud puddle. "Careful, ma'am," Briggs said from the doorway. He was not looking at Della when he said it. He was looking out at the street as if the whole conversation was a minor administrative matter. Legal language can get a person in trouble if they don't know what they're talking about. Della looked at the deputy for a long moment. "Legal language is exactly what's going to settle this," she said. "Through a circuit court judge, not across my counter." Cavell picked the note back up, unhurried. "End of the month," he said again, still smiling. "I'll be in Cobre Flats." The bell above the door rang again on their way out, and then the mercantile was quiet, and Della stood alone behind the counter, with the smell of boot leather and pipe smoke still in the air, and her hands flat on the wood. She was not shaking. She had promised herself she would not shake. She had not quite managed it. The rider came into Cobre Flats 2 mornings later, on a gray appaloosa mare with road dust in every crease of her coat. He came in from the South Road, which most people coming from Las Cruces used, which meant he could have been anybody, but anybody would have ridden straight to the livery or the saloon. This man rode to the water trough on the edge of the street, let his horse drink, and sat very still in the saddle looking at the town, the way you look at a place you have been to in a bad dream and are checking now to see if it matches. He was lean through the shoulders, with the kind of quietly built frame that looks ordinary from 30 feet away, and less ordinary the closer you get. His face was clean-shaved, younger looking than the trail dust suggested, somewhere in the low 30s. Dark hair under a plainsman's hat with a weathered brim. He wore a canvas duster coat the color of old wood and a Colt single-action army on his hip, positioned for a cross-draw that nobody would notice until it was already happening. The limp was the thing people noticed first. His left leg had a catch in it, a small hitch in the stride that said an old wound had healed badly, or fast, or both. It made him look like a man who had worn out in some fundamental way, and it made people look away from him instead of at him, which, if you had been watching long enough, you might have noticed was useful. He asked at the livery for board for his horse, paid in coin, and said he would want the stall for at least a week. He gave his name as Cole. Just Cole. The livery boy wrote it down without asking for more. He took a room at the Sandstone Hotel, which was a 2-story adobe building that called itself a hotel and functioned mostly as a boarding house. He ate quietly in the small dining room that evening, sat with his back to the wall the way men do who have learned that lesson through discomfort, and watched the street through the window. The dining room was half full, a couple of traveling drummers, a family passing through on their way to Albuquerque, and at the far end of the counter, Deputy Harlan Briggs, eating steak and talking too loudly to the hotel proprietor about the general decline of reasonable people in New Mexico territory. Cole listened to the deputy talk for 12 minutes. Then he paid for his meal and went upstairs. The next morning, he limped down to the mercantile and bought 2 lengths of rope, a tin of axle grease, and a box of rifle shells. Della was behind the counter. She noticed the limp in the quiet, and the way he looked at the shelves with the focused efficiency of a man buying what he needed and not what he thought he needed, which was different from most customers in ways she couldn't quite name. "Passing through?" she asked. "Not quite yet," he said. He paid and left. She watched him go through the window and didn't think much more about it until later that day, when Deke Tully came in to buy tobacco and made a point of leaning on the counter longer than necessary and saying things in that particular low tone that was not quite a threat and was not quite conversation and lived in the uncomfortable space between. "Boss is running short on patience," Deke said. "Your boss can run however fast he likes," Della said. "That doesn't change the law." "Depends on who's reading the law," Deke said. He tipped his hat and left. It was the 3rd time something like that had happened in 3 days, and each time was a little smaller and a little more casual than the last, because that is how intimidation works when it wants to look like nothing. It stacks small moments until the weight of them becomes intolerable. Della closed the mercantile at 6 that evening. When she went to lock the back door, she found that the latch had been forced. Not broken, just bent. Someone had opened it and closed it again. Nothing was missing. The message was in the opening itself. She stood there a moment in the fading light and decided she was not going to lose this building. That evening, she sent a letter to the circuit court in Albuquerque requesting a date for a fraud hearing. "Subscribe right now, partner, and drop a comment letting me know what time it is where you are, because stories like this one are still worth telling, and I want to know who's up late enough to hear them." The next morning, Cole was sitting on the bench outside the hotel when Della walked past on her way to open the mercantile. He nodded. She nodded back. She had seen too many drifters pass through Cobre Flats to think much of it. What she did not know yet was that Cole had already spent the morning learning the geography of the town in a way that had nothing to do with idleness. He knew where the 3 alleys behind Main Street ran. He knew where the stable's rear gate opened. He knew which building sat on the highest ground with the clearest angle on the road from Las Cruces. He had done this kind of accounting before, in other towns, and the currency he paid in was attention. He had also, early that morning, followed Caleb Orrin at a distance of 1 block through 2 streets and a livery alley, and arrived at the conclusion that Orrin went where Tully told him, and Tully went where Cavell told him, and Cavell had not yet decided what to do about the deadline at month's end. This meant things would stay quiet for a few more days and then get loud very quickly. Cole was eating lunch at the counter of the sandstone dining room when Briggs sat down beside him uninvited. This was the sort of thing Briggs did to drifters. It established priority. "You've been in town about 4 days, Briggs said, not looking at him, talking to his coffee cup. "About that," Cole said, "most folks passing through are gone by 2. "I'm not most folks." Briggs turned to look at him directly. Which was the move? "What's your business here?" "Resting a horse," Cole said. Briggs looked at the limp, looked back at his coffee, decided the man was nothing. "Don't overstay your welcome," he said. Cole reached into his coat pocket and placed a coin on the counter beside his plate to cover his meal. It was an ordinary movement, but it moved the duster back from the Colt for a half-second, long enough for anyone watching to see the grip and the holster, and more importantly, long enough for Briggs to see the particular way the holster was worn and mounted. Not the standard carry. Something else. Something measured. Briggs was quiet the rest of his coffee. He did not, however, go to Cavell right away. Men like Briggs rarely move fast when they are not sure what they are looking at. That delay was going to cost Cavell something, though neither of them knew it yet. On the morning of October the 9th, Cavell sent Deke Tully and Caleb Oren to the Mercantile with a new proposal. This one was not delivered as a business negotiation. Tully stood on one side of the counter, and Oren stood near the door, and Tully put his hands flat on the wood the way Cavell had done earlier, but with a different kind of weight behind it. "Mr. Cavell is prepared to offer you $300 cash for the business," Tully said. "Sign over the deed today and you're clear of the debt, plus you walk away with money in your pocket. That's fair." Della had heard this kind of arithmetic before. It was the kind where whoever was doing the counting had already decided what the answer was. "Tell Mr. Cavell that the business is not for sale," she said. Tully leaned a little forward. "Mrs. Henley," he said, and the way he said her name made it sound like a fact he was recording rather than a person he was addressing. "I'd think carefully. I think carefully every day," she said. "It's gotten me this far." Tully pushed back from the counter and looked around the Mercantile with the slow evaluating gaze of a man measuring dimensions. "Fine place," he said. "Be a shame if anything happened to the roof timbers. These old adobe buildings, sometimes the beams just go." He said it quietly and without any particular emphasis, and left. Della stood very still for a moment after the door closed. The threat was clear enough. They were not talking about the law anymore. Cole was outside when Tully and Oren came out. He was on the bench across the street, whittling nothing in particular, which was a habit he had developed some years ago as a reason to keep his hands busy while his eyes worked. He watched the two men walk away south. He watched how Tully walked, the stride of a man who did not expect consequences. He watched how Oren walked, the shorter, quicker pace of a man following someone else's gravity. Then he crossed the street and went into the Mercantile. Della looked up when the bell rang. She saw the quiet drifter with the limp. Not who she expected. "You heard," she said. It was not really a question. "Enough," Cole said. He set his hat on the counter. "The one who talked. He'd been here before, 2 other times. He works for a man named Preston Cavell. Cavell Consolidated, out of Las Cruces." Della went still. "You know him?" Cole did not answer that directly. He picked up a tin of coffee beans from the nearest shelf, set it down again. "You have a lawyer working on the note?" "In Albuquerque. I sent a letter about a hearing." "How long for a hearing date?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. Cole nodded slowly. "You have family in town?" "No family. 2 employees I sent home early today because I didn't want them near Tully." Cole looked out the window at the street. A long moment went by, the kind of moment where a person decides whether to step forward or step back, and the whole weight of the decision is sitting in the air between 2 people. "Leave her be," Cole said finally, almost to himself. Della frowned. "What?" He looked at her. "That's what I told the last man who worked for Cavell, before I told him anything else." The Mercantile was very quiet. "You've crossed Cavell before," Della said. "Once," Cole said. "He hired a man to set a fire on a freight yard in Santa Fe. The fire went wrong. A woman was hurt." His jaw tightened slightly at the memory. "I made certain the man he hired didn't work for him anymore. Cavell blamed me for that. Fair enough. And now, he's in my town. And now he's in your town." Cole picked his hat up from the counter. "I can't promise you the circuit court will move fast enough, but I can promise you that if Cavell decides to push this past talking, he is going to find the ground considerably harder than he expects." Della studied him for a long moment. The limp, the quiet, the way he had said Cavell's name with the flat recognition of a man reading a map of a place he had already been. "Who are you?" she asked. Cole settled his hat on his head. "Someone who owes Cavell a conversation," he said, and he walked out. She watched him through the window. He crossed the street without hurrying, the slight hitch in his stride as regular as a clock. And she thought, for the first time in several days, that she was not entirely alone. That evening, she led him into the back of the Mercantile through the storage room entrance. She brewed coffee on the small stove she kept back there for winter tallying, and they sat on opposite sides of the work table with the lamplight between them. and she asked him his full name. Cole Reardon, he said. Something changed in her expression. Not much, but enough. I've heard that name, she said. Most people in New Mexico have, he said without particular pride. Cole Reardon had come to New Mexico territory from the Texas Panhandle, originally, though he had worked in Colorado and Arizona before that, and before that a stretch in Wyoming that he did not discuss in detail. He was 32 years old. The limp was from a bullet that had clipped the outer edge of his left femur during a dispute in Tucson in 1881. A dispute that had not been his idea, and had ended badly for the man who had made it his idea. He had been offered deputy positions in 3 towns, and had declined all 3, not from any objection to law, but from a particular objection to being stationary. He was the kind of man who understood the value of permanence without being able to sustain it himself, which is a specific kind of loneliness that he had learned to carry without making other people carry it with him. He told Della about Santa Fe, not the whole of it, but enough. The freight yard, the fire, the woman who had been a bookkeeper named Mrs. Alcott, 60 years old, who had been sleeping in the back office of the yard because she was saving money for a train ticket to see her daughter in El Paso, and who had gotten out with burns on her hands and arms that would bother her for the rest of her life. Cole had been in Santa Fe on other business, and had happened to be close enough to the yard to pull Mrs. Alcott out before the smoke got to her lungs. He had also been close enough to recognize Cavell's intermediary, a man called Ruiz, and close enough to know why Cavell had wanted that particular freight yard burned. Cavell had wanted it burned because the yard's owner had refused to sell, just like Della was refusing. He's done this before, Della said. It wasn't a question this time either. At least twice that I know of, Cole said. And both times the property changed hands. And both times the owners walked away with less than the land was worth, and were glad to be walking away at all. Della stared at the coffee in her cup. He's not going to get this building, she said, quietly, but in the tone of a person who has moved past asking themselves whether something is possible and started asking themselves how it will happen. No, Cole agreed. He's not. He looked up at the ceiling of the storage room, a habit of thought. You keep the rear alley unlocked at night? I've been locking it since they bent the latch. Good. Keep it locked. Don't use the front entrance after dark. He stood up, turned his hat in his hands. Then he stopped. You ever fired a rifle? My husband's Winchester is in the back room, she said. Can you hit what you aim at? At close range, she said. I haven't practiced in a while. We'll fix that. The next morning was a Sunday, and most of Cobre Flats was either in church or sleeping off Saturday. Cole brought Della out to the flat ground behind the freight company's small rear yard, where the land opened up toward a line of mesquite scrub before the desert took over. He had set up 3 tin cans on a split-rail fence post at varying distances. He showed her the Winchester's action first, the lever, the seating of the round, the set of the stock against the shoulder. He talked about breathing the way a man talks who has thought about breathing a great deal and understands that most people do it wrong when they are afraid. The fear doesn't go away, he told her. You just learn to breathe inside it instead of waiting for it to leave. She missed the first 2 shots and hit the 3rd can solidly enough to knock it into the mesquite. He adjusted her stance slightly, just the angle of her elbow. She hit the next 2 in a row. Again, he said. She fired until she had used up the cartridges he had brought. By the last few, she was hitting consistently at the middle distance, and she was not flinching on the shot. And she had the particular quality of stillness that comes over people when they realize they can do a thing they were afraid they couldn't. Cole reloaded the rifle and handed it back. Keep this behind the counter, he said. Not out of sight. In sight. You think it'll come to that. I think men like Tully calculate risk. Show him the rifle is there, he calculates differently. He spent that afternoon on other preparations that he did not explain in full. He went down to the hardware store and bought a coil of thin wire, a handful of small cowbells, and 2 lanterns. He had a conversation with the blacksmith 2 doors from the mercantile that lasted about 20 minutes. He walked the alley behind the main street twice, counting paces between doors and fences. And once he crouched at the mouth of the alley and was still for a long time looking at the angles, the way a chess player looks at a board before a match. Cole had been in a number of contested situations in his life, and the thing he had learned from all of them was that preparation was the only honest substitute for certainty. He could not guarantee what Cavell would do or when, but he could make the ground unfavorable, and then wait. 2 nights after the rifle practice, he strung a length of wire low across the rear alley entrance, tied to one of the cowbells on a fence post. He placed the second cowbell at the corner of the alley where it met the side street. He explained to Della where each wire was, and how to step over them in the dark. He moved the 2 lanterns to positions inside the storage room that would throw light across the alley without lighting him up when he needed to move. They'll most likely come at night, he told her. Before the hearing date, if they're going to act. How many? Tully, Orrin, and possibly a hired third. Cavell doesn't come himself for this kind of work. Della nodded. She had moved past the stage of hoping the threat would go away on its own. Some people never make it to that stage, and the fear keeps them stationary. She had made it, and there was a kind of cold steadiness on the other side of it that felt not like bravery exactly, but like clarity. The rifle stays loaded, Cole said. I know, she said. He looked at her for a moment with an expression she could not quite categorize. Not approval exactly, something quieter. The recognition one person has for another who has decided to hold their ground. Cavell will try a legal pressure first, he said. He'll push Briggs to serve some kind of notice, probably in the next day or 2. Don't engage with Briggs directly. Accept the paper. Say nothing. Send it to your lawyer. And if Briggs arrests you... Cole almost smiled. Briggs is not going to arrest me? How do you know that? Because he looked at my holster last week and he spent 48 hours deciding I wasn't a problem. He paused. I want him to keep thinking that. The next day, exactly as Cole had predicted, Briggs served Della with a civil notice claiming the debt was documented and executable under territorial law. It was not a real notice. It was a paper designed to look like a real notice, and the difference required a lawyer to spot. Cole watched from across the street as Briggs came out of the mercantile and walked south toward the saloon, unhurried, satisfied. Then Cavell made his mistake. That evening, in the saloon within earshot of 3 separate tables of local men, Deke Tully made a comment about the widow and what she would be doing with herself after the business was settled. And the comment was the kind that crossed from threatening into something uglier. 2 of the men at those tables were longtime customers of Henley Freight. One of them was the blacksmith Cole had spoken to 3 days earlier. Word reached Cole in his hotel room within the hour. He put on his coat and hat and walked down to the saloon, which was the one place in Cobre Flats that did not quiet when a man came through the door. He found Tully at the bar, half a glass of whiskey in front of him, Orrin on his left, nobody on his right. Cole sat down on Tully's right. Tully looked at him. He had the particular expression of a man who recognizes another man as a minor annoyance, rather than a problem, which was the expression Cole had been cultivating since he arrived. Drifter, Tully said. Heard something in here tonight, Cole said. He ordered a whiskey and did not pick it up. Saloon's full of something. Something specific, Cole said. About Mrs. Henley. Tully turned slightly on his stool, which was the prelude to a confrontation, the body announcing itself before the mouth does. Not your business. Leave her be, Cole said. He said it quietly, the way a man says a thing he has decided on. Not the way a man says a thing he is testing. Tully looked at him for a long moment. The saloon had not gone entirely quiet, but it had gotten noticeably less loud in the immediate radius, the way a room gets when people are listening without appearing to. Orrin had put his glass down. You got a stake in this, Drifter? Tully asked. Just a preference, Cole said. Tully smiled. The long, slow smile of a man who has decided he is not worried. You know who you're talking about? Preston Cavell owns freight routes from El Paso to Albuquerque. He has lawyers and he has judges, and he has enough money to make the law read whatever he needs it to read. Most men who need the law to read a certain way, Cole said, are not as comfortable as they think they are. Tully's smile went away. I'm going to tell you once, Drifter. Pack your horse in the morning. Cole looked at his whiskey. He pushed it 1 inch back across the bar. A small, precise movement. You should ask around about me before tomorrow, he said. He stood up and set a coin on the bar. The man who knows my name in Las Cruces, ask him what he remembers about Santa Fe. Then tell me if Cavell still wants to push this. He walked out. Tully watched him go. Orrin watched Tully. The room breathed again. But Tully did not ask around. That was his mistake, and it was the particular kind of mistake made by men who have been right about most drifters and have stopped making exceptions. The letter arrived from Las Cruces 2 days later, addressed to Cavell. Cole did not know what was in the letter, but he knew that Cavell had received it, because Cavell arrived in person on the afternoon of October the 14th, which he had not done before, which meant the situation had escalated past what he was willing to manage from a distance. Cavell met with Briggs first, a private conversation in the deputy's small office beside the jailhouse. Cole stood at the livery across the street and watched the two men through the window for 20 minutes, which told him the meeting was substantive. Then, Cavell went to the saloon. That night, Cole knocked on the back door of the Mercantile. Della let him in. She had the Winchester leaning against the storage room wall, and the lamp turned low. He's here, she said. She had seen Cavell in the street that afternoon. I know. He'll move before the week's out. The hearing date will be set soon, and he knows it. How do you know the hearing will be set? Cole reached into his coat and produced a folded paper. Letter from your lawyer in Albuquerque. Came to the hotel for me by arrangement. Hearing set for October 22nd. Della stared at him. You arranged that? I sent him a letter 8 days ago. Your original letter was going to take 6 weeks. We don't have 6 weeks. She took the paper and read it. A circuit court hearing, October 22nd, 1884, in Cobre Flats, before Judge Emmett Slade, regarding the validity of the Henley debt instrument. 8 days, she said. You started this 8 days ago. When I walked out of your Mercantile the first morning, he said. She looked at him across the lamplight. There was a quality to the moment that neither of them acknowledged directly, a recognition that the ground had shifted in a way that went beyond freight debts and forged notes. Cole Reardon, she said quietly. Just making sure the ground is level, he said. She put the letter in her coat pocket. Cavell will know about the hearing by morning, which is why tonight matters. He gestured at the lanterns, the rifle, the locked door. You have everything in position. I've already set the wires in the alley. Cavell doesn't know about those. Briggs doesn't know. Tully doesn't know. He looked at the ceiling again. There's a boy named Marsh who sleeps in the hay at the livery. I gave him $2 to come knock on my hotel room door if he sees men moving in the alley after midnight. Della looked at him. You've been getting ready for this for a week. 9 days, he said. He went back to the hotel. He sat in his room with his boots on and the lamp off, and the window opened just enough to hear the street below. Marsh knocked at 1 in the morning. Cole was already moving when the knock came. Coat on, hat on, the Colt checked and holstered. He told the boy to go back to the livery and stay there, and he moved down the hotel's back stairs and into the alley behind Main Street in under a minute. He could hear them before he could see them. 3 men, moving as quietly as men who are not practiced at moving quietly. Tully led Orrin behind him, and a third man Cole did not recognize, older, who moved with the particular economy of someone hired for this kind of work. They were carrying torches not yet lit, which told Cole they were planning fire and not just intimidation. The first wire caught Orrin at the ankle, and the cowbell rang once, sharp and clear in the quiet town. And Orrin went sideways into the alley fence with a noise that was considerably louder than a cowbell. Tully froze. The third man reached for his revolver. Cole was already in the alley. Left your guns on the ground, he said. He said it at normal volume without shouting, which was more unsettling than shouting would have been. "Both hands where I see them." Tully turned. He saw the cold leveled, and still, and he saw the man holding it, and for the first time he saw what Briggs had seen in the hotel dining room. The posture, the placement, the total absence of hurry and a man pointing a gun at 3 other men in a dark alley. "You're Cole Reardon," Tully said. He said it the way a man says a thing that explains several other things he had previously misunderstood. "Guns on the ground," Cole said. Tully bent slowly and placed his right revolver on the dirt. The third man, who was smarter than Orrin, put his down without being asked again. Orrin, getting up from the fence with one hand pressed to his ribs, had not gotten his revolver out. He left it holstered. The back door of the mercantile opened. Della stood in the doorway with the Winchester leveled, the stock set against her shoulder, her elbow at the angle Cole had adjusted that Sunday morning behind the freight yard. The alley went very still. Tully looked at the Winchester. He looked at Cole. He looked at the torches they had been carrying, which were lying on the alley ground where Orrin had dropped his when the cowbell rang. "Fire," Cole said. "You came to burn her out." He said it not as a question, and not as an accusation, but as a fact being entered into a ledger, in front of a witness. He glanced toward the roofline of the hardware store, where the blacksmith's apprentice was sitting against the chimney with a clear angle on the alley. The boy had been there since 11. Cole had asked him to be. 2 witnesses. Tully's jaw worked for a moment. Then the careful calculation ran out. "Briggs will have you out of a jail cell by morning," he said. It was the last position available to a man who has run out of better ones. Cole moved to one side, keeping his angle. "Mrs. Henley." Della did not lower the Winchester. She kept it level, right hand on the grip, the barrel aimed at the space between Tully and Orrin in the way Cole had shown her. The way that covers 2 people without committing to either one, which is more effective than picking one, because neither man knows whether they are the one being aimed at. "Deke Tully," she said. Her voice was steady, not the steadiness of someone who is not afraid, the steadiness of someone who has decided that being afraid is not the same as being stopped. "You came to burn my business." "Ma'am," Tully started. "I'd like you to tell me clearly," she said, "whether Mr. Cavell ordered this or whether this was your own judgment, because when I described this evening to Judge Slade on October the 22nd, I want to have the right name on the right act." Tully was quiet. "Mr. Cavell," Della said. Not a question. Tully's eyes moved to the side. "That was enough. On your knees," Cole said. "All 3 of you, hands on your heads." They went down, Orrin first, then the third man, then Tully, who did it with the particular slowness of a man trying to preserve some dignity in an undignified position. Cole went to the mouth of the alley. "Marsh," he called. The livery boy appeared at the far end of the alley holding a lantern. "Go get the blacksmith," Cole said. "Tell him we need someone to hold 3 men until morning." 2 citizens of Cobre Flats who had no particular love for Cavell or Briggs, and who had spent a week watching a widow be pressured over a false debt, agreed to stand watch over the 3 men in the freight yard until the deputy came, which Cole had arranged to be later rather than sooner, by sending word to Briggs by a route that would take 2 hours. By the time Briggs arrived, there were 5 local men standing in the freight yard, 2 of whom had been Caleb Henley's freight customers, and one of whom had personally watched Tully light the torches before Orrin tripped the wire. The torches were on the ground as evidence. The 2 cowboys who had been watching from the hardware store roof came down and identified themselves. And when Briggs looked at the torches, and looked at the witnesses, and looked at Cole Reardon standing very quietly against the freight yard fence with his arms folded, and a particular expression on his face, Briggs made the only calculation left to him. He arrested Tully and the third man, whose name turned out to be Garrett. He let Orrin go, which told Cole that Orrin had already started talking, which was exactly what Cole had expected. Preston Cavell left Cobre Flats on the morning of October the 15th. He did not visit the mercantile before he left. He rode south on the Las Cruces road with the same smooth, unhurried pace as a man who had simply concluded a business trip. And if you had not known the story, you would not have read anything in particular into his departure. But the story was known. By the time the morning stage came through, most of Cobre Flats knew it. The kind of knowing that spreads through small towns faster than anything printed, in the particular currency of people who needed something to be true and found out it was. On October the 22nd, Judge Emmett Slade convened a hearing in the Cobre Flats meeting hall and examined the Henley debt instrument alongside 3 supporting documents that Cole had obtained from a freight records clerk in Las Cruces, who had found inconsistencies in Cavell's filing dates. The hearing lasted 4 hours. At the conclusion, Judge Slade voided the instrument as fraudulent and entered a finding against Cavell's Consolidated Freight Company. 2 weeks later, a territorial investigator arrived to look into Briggs's conduct as deputy. Briggs resigned before the week was out. Della did not hear any of this directly from Cole, because Cole was not in Cobre Flats by the time the investigation started. He had ridden out on the morning of October the 17th, 2 days after the night in the alley. She had known he was leaving. She had known it the way you know weather is coming, not from what is said, but from the particular quality of quiet the day before. He had come to the Mercantile on the morning of the 17th and bought a paper twist of tobacco he did not smoke, and she had made coffee and they had sat in the storage room the way they had twice before, and she had asked him where he was going. South, he said. For now. She looked at her coffee cup. Outside on Main Street, she could hear the ordinary sounds of a town doing its morning things. The blacksmith's hammer, a wagon on the road, a dog doing something important somewhere. The ground's level, she said. Mostly, he said. She looked up. Will Cavell come back? Not here, Cole said. His pattern is to move on to easier ground after a loss. You'll hear from his lawyers once more and then nothing. She nodded. She believed him because he said things that were true, rather than things that were comforting, which was a distinction she had come to appreciate in the 2 weeks she had known him. The Winchester's behind the counter, she said. Good, he said. She walked him to the front of the Mercantile when he left. The gray Appaloosa was at the rail, saddled and ready, the road dust already on her coat from wherever she had been standing in the early morning. Cole put on his hat and picked up the reins. He looked at her for a moment, the kind of long, quiet look that says several things without saying any of them, which is the most honest kind of communication a certain sort of person is capable of. Cole, she said. He waited. Thank you, she said. Not for the hearing, not for the night in the alley, just that, the whole of it. He nodded once, the way men nod when they have more to say, and have decided that saying it would not be the right thing for either of them. Then he turned the Appaloosa south, the slight hitch of his left leg as he mounted, and he rode down Main Street at a walk, the same way he had ridden in, and he did not look back at the Mercantile. But she watched him until the road dust closed around him, and the street was ordinary again. Della Henley kept Henley Freight and Mercantile open through 1884 and into 1885. And in the spring of that year, she hired 2 freight drivers and expanded the route north to Santa Fe. By 1887, she had 3 wagons and a bookkeeper of her own, and a reputation in Cobre Flats as the kind of businesswoman you did not want to cross over a debt, real or fabricated. She kept Caleb's Winchester behind the counter for the rest of her life, not because she expected to need it, but because it reminded her of a particular Sunday morning behind the freight yard, when she had discovered that the thing she had been afraid of was something she was capable of facing. Now, I've been sitting by this fire a good long while, partner, and I've told a lot of stories about this country, about the people who built things out here in the dust and the silence and the wind, and about the people who tried to take those things away. And what I keep coming back to is this. The West didn't belong to the men with the most guns. It didn't belong to the men with the most money. It didn't belong to the men who read the law the way they needed it to read and called that justice. The West, in the end, belonged to the people who refused to fold, who stood their ground even when the ground felt like it was moving, who found, when it came to it, that they had more inside them than fear had suggested. A drifter with a limp and a quiet reputation rode into Cobre Flats and left it better than he found it, and then he rode on, because that is what some people do. Not because they are running from something, because the road keeps making room for them, and they have not yet found the place where it stops. Preston Cavell, for what it's worth, had his freight licenses suspended by territorial regulators in 1886 and relocated to California, where presumably the ground suited him better. Some men find easier places. That is not the same as finding peace. And somewhere south of Cobre Flats, on a road that runs between the mountains and the desert, a man with a slight limp on a gray appaloosa was probably already finding out what the next town needed. Keep your powder dry, partner, and your soul honest. This story is a work of fiction, inspired by the traditions of frontier storytelling and the historical record of New Mexico Territory in the 1880s. The images you've seen were created with the help of AI generation tools, crafted to bring this story's world to life. If this tale found you in a good place tonight, please leave a like and subscribe to ride along with more stories like this. 1. I'd love to know where you're listening from and which part of the story stayed with you. Until our trails cross again.